net rest. Net rest is the total days of extra rest versus an opponent's over the course of the season. So if the Fighting Middlekauffs played on Monday and I played on Sunday, we each played different teams, and then we play each other the following Sunday. Since he played Monday, I am +1 net rest, right?
Yeah.
If John's off a bye, I am +7 net rest. So the Jets, the Bears, the Commanders, they're all +12. They are 12 days more rested than their opponents over the balance of the season. The Titans are 11. The Browns are 10. It just goes on. Warren's list goes on. Then it gets to the minus teams, the teams who have less rest. Seattle and Vegas, 4 days, -4. Tampa, the Chargers, the Eagles, -6 days. Then we skip down to -9 days, the Giants. Nobody -10, nobody -11. Atlanta, -12 days. KC, 13. Nobody 14, nobody 15, nobody 16, 17. The Rams, all right? Nobody 18, nobody 19. 20 days, negative rest differential, the 49ers. So the question is, Warren said, hey, this really matters. -20 rest day differential. It's a big number, right? Whether you think it matters or not, most of the league is on the other side of this spectrum. Does this matter? We'll dive into the schedule in a second, but there's the initial report.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't matter at all. Like, when I looked at the schedule, when I look at this team, no different than last year. I mean, anything less than like 11 wins is a disaster. Like, they're honestly, beside the Eagles, I mean, fuck, guy, I don't view their schedule as very different. They play in one of the worst divisions in football. Arizona Cardinals are a joke. I mean, the Niners swept their division last year. I think the Rams, like, they got a very, very thin margin, and we know Kyle Shanahan against the Rams when they're good. I mean, we've seen them when they were in the peak of their powers. And I'm sorry, Seattle, which is a good story, and I have a lot of respect for Pete and John. I expect them to continue to be competitive. Like, I'm sorry, like, I don't. At worst, you're splitting. Yeah. Especially the way it sets up, right? You know, they play
right
in the stretch that they do. So, like, I just view this team no different than I did last year when I didn't. The complete unknown with quarterback. Now we know, assuming Purdy's healthy, they got Darnold, you know, and Trey, the third quarterback. Like, I don't view this, like, I don't, the rest. I have a hard time also just, and listen, we're all guilty of this for the majority of teams. I do think it's very difficult, and I think the Niners are a good example. You know, if you played the Niners last year, hell, early in the season, like week 4, you'd be like, the Denver Broncos, oh, we're getting Trey Lance, let's prepare for Trey Lance. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy Garoppolo's a quarterback. Things change so fast in the NFL with injuries. Last year, Dak Prescott got hurt. Cooper Rush played last year, remember, a couple games. So it's like, oh, the Cowboys, that's an enormous game. That 40 million people are going to watch that thing.
Right.
In that same scenario, the 49ers last year, because remember, Dak got hurt relatively early in the season. The quarterbacks for the Niners and the Cowboys a year previously were different in that game. And we can factor in all the other players, right? Like, Kittle missed early time. Like, so you just look at the Cowboys. Well, what if Micah Parsons? I think it's very difficult to play this game in the NFL as the season goes because there are so many variables with injuries, unlike the other sports.
That's true, but it doesn't mean it's hard to predict. It doesn't mean it doesn't come into play. Like, if you told me Josh Johnson starting week 6, there's a difference between him starting off of a bye and not having come off a bye, right? Like, if you're playing Cooper Rush off a Monday night, that's different than playing Cooper Rush, who had 14 days to prepare for the game. I agree with you. We can't figure out right now what will matter, but these things do come into play at some point over the course of the season. Now, will they all come into play?
I do think the buys and the Thursday night games, which the Niners have 2 of them, as several other teams do, and playing teams off a bye does matter. Like, you told me earlier, the Bengals coming off a bye. I think the Bengals are, you could argue, who knows, maybe this is the year they win the Super Bowl. They could be the best team in the league. That is a fucking major disadvantage.
Right.
But the Cardinals off a bye, right? Wasn't that one of the teams off a bye?
So the Niners play 4 teams off a bye. One of them is the Jags when the Niners are coming off a bye. So put that one aside. The Niners play 3 teams off a bye when the Niners are not off a bye. It's the Browns week 6 coming off a bye. It's the Bengals week 8. Bengals are off a bye. Bengals just went at Arizona, Seattle at home, bye. And then you brought up the Cardinals. The other bye that the Niners have is week 15. They play the Cardinals coming off a bye. Cardinals off a bye.
Yeah, I would say that the Arizona Cardinals, I would put that a lot like the Jags. Doesn't matter.
Especially December. We know how they look in December. Historically, it's terrible.
The Bengals, major disadvantage. because they're really, really good. Remember, a couple years ago when Ayuk's walkout, like they're just good team. They got Joe Burrow. they could beat you normal bye, normal rest, coming off Thursday night. They're on a Thursday night. Doesn't matter. So that's disadvantage. The Browns, like, I'd put that in the camp of we'll see. I'm not taking the Browns seriously because I think they got way more question marks than answers, especially the elephant in the room this year is going to be paying a shitload for a quarterback that who knows, is he still good?
Right.
I don't know. I would bet against the Browns.
Two other notes how this comes in.
No, I'm not talking about that individual game. I'm not saying the 49ers can't lose. I'm just saying overall. I'd say the Browns are more likely to be 7-10 than 12-5.
Right, I agree. The Niners don't play a game when they're on regular rest and the opponent's off a short week. So, like, they don't play a game against a team that just played on Monday Night Football. They're the games where they do have a schedule advantage. When they play the Eagles, the Niners are coming off a Thursday Night Football Thanksgiving, so they'll have extra rest going to Philly. That's if we're going to talk about the negative. It's the days don't add, like this is the thing. The days don't add up, right? Like plus 3 days against the Eagles, minus 7 days against the Browns, so you're a net -4. But if you told me you could have plus 3 against Philly, but you're going to have to trade it for -7 against Cleveland, you would take that. Like plus 3 against Philly is a good spot, right? So
yes.
That's where these numbers, the net number, it depends who you're playing where. And then the other game that they have an advantage on is the first Cardinal game, which is week 4, because the Niners are coming off the Thursday night game against the Giants. So
yeah, to me, you would swap that for the Cowboys at
Right.
Vikings. You would swap that for another game. Like the Vikings, for example, are a team that many people think are going to come back to earth, myself included. When I say come back to earth, that doesn't mean they're going to draft Caleb Williams. It just means
10-7.
instead of being, I'd even say under 500, 8-9, 9-8, kind of in that range, 7-10, best case 10-7. That is a very, very tough game when you factor in Monday Night Football at night. I mean, on the Monday Night Football, obviously at night, Monday Night Football on the road.
Yeah.
I think that is, I think they're, I think if we really dove in, like best home field, assuming the team is competitive too, they'd be near, if you like the Chiefs would be near the top. Chiefs might be 1, given the fact when you factor in how good their team is, like how up people are for a Monday night game.
Yeah.
If the Vikings are above 500 going into that game will be fucking loud and tough.
By the way, do you know we have back-to-back week 2 and week 3 doubleheader Monday Night Football?
I read an article yesterday, no clue about this, and then I read the article. It happens 4 times this year. 2, 3, I think week 14 and 17. Who's asking for this?
Week
Why would
17, there's no
ESPN
Monday night,
eat
but there's a
themselves?
triple header week 16. Yeah.
What are we doing?
We also have a couple Fridays. Christmas week is 1 Thursday, 2 Fridays, and then the next week there's a Saturday game.
Well, okay, so week 14, Tennessee at Miami, which is just your ideal 10 a.m. West Coast kickoff on a Sunday.
Right.
The Packers, let's just say the Packers and the Giants are both just in the playoff mix around early December. That is a massive game, right, in terms of ratings.
Yeah.
Why would you have anything eating into that? To try to, give
'cause don't
Steve
they
Levy
look
and
at
Riddick some reps? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Orlovsky, don't they look at it just like you see ratings now. It's like we did X number across 7 different platforms, our ESPN Plus Espanol and ESPN Plus English plus, you know what I mean? I think they just look at it like.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying you just get every eyeball in this thing. Like the guys watching, the Tennessee fan would just be watching the Packer game.
Does we could look back, right? Does the combined total add up to an extra 4 million viewers? Because you got those markets as well in a little more than you otherwise would have. I think they look at it like a collective, right? Like 12
I agree,
million
but I'm
over
just
here and
saying
8 million
I
over
hate
here's 20, and we would have gotten 16 otherwise.
You're paying all this money. Why wouldn't you just, especially when you have big brands?
They're not just paying money to the media rights. Think about how many guys. I don't know what the current contract situation is, but Levy was on a Monday night deal. Tessitore was on a Monday night deal. Now these guys aren't making as much as Buck and McDonough. They've got 4 guys they're paying Monday Night Football money to at ESPN.
I think that shifts though once they're off though.
I don't know. I think if you're a good agent, you would say, yeah, you put my 5-year contract Monday night, but if you take me off Monday night for 1 year, like I still get my money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I think they might have 4 guys they're paying Monday Night TV money to.
I see. Well, I think once that's why Bob Iger starts firing people and starts threatening, people take pay cuts fast, right? Because if you're not on it anymore, it's like, well, listen, I like making $4 or $5 million, but I'd take my 1.5 too.